Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Jamie and today we're going to be going through Psalm 37:4 and what I think it means. So before I start, I kind of just want to say I'm not a preacher, I'm not a pastor, I don't have any types of certification or anything like that. I'm just someone who loves the Lord and loves to read His Word and feel as though God has revealed some things to me in terms of like reading His Word. So hopefully this makes sense. And before we start, I'm just going to go ahead and read Psalm 37:4, and it says, "Delight thyself also in the Lord, and He shall give thee the desires of thine heart." So basically what it's saying is delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. It seems pretty simple, right? I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory, but what does it actually mean? Well, I've been in this process currently of like praying to God for something. More specifically, I've been praying over a medical school acceptance, which isn't like a crazy ask, or maybe it is. It's kind of a little bit of a crazy ask if I'm being honest. But I'm asking the Lord over and over again, and I'm praying and I'm passionately praying and I'm persistently praying to the Lord over a medical school acceptance. And I asked the Lord, would you give me some verses from the Bible that talk about how you would bless your people if they're obedient to you? And this is one of the verses that I came up with. And so I was praying over it, and I was praying over it the same way. I was like, God, if I obey you and I delight myself in you, then you will give me the desires of my heart. You'll give me everything that I want. And it's not exactly like that. I use this verse this way because so many times I've seen it in sermons, I've seen it in Bible studies used this way, I've seen it on YouTube videos, and people use this verse as an easy way for God to give them whatever they want. And I fell victim to that mindset, and I was thinking the same way as them. Until one day I was really reading over this verse and I was thinking, this seems a little bit selfish of me to be praying this way. And so I kind of looked online what other meanings there could have been behind it. And as I was in the pursuit of what this verse actually meant, I found that the way that I was praying about it wasn't exactly how God intended it to be used. It says, "Delight thyself in the Lord, and He shall give you the desires of thine heart." What's the first thing that the verse is telling us to do? It's to delight ourselves in the Lord. Now, when we delight ourselves in the Lord, what does that actually mean? It means to find happiness in Him, to find joy in Him. And when you find happiness and joy in Him, it's when you're following His commandments. It's when you're obeying Him. It's when, you want to do right by Him. And then what happens when you do all of those things? Then the desires of God's heart for your life eventually becomes your desires. And it just kind of like blew my mind when I realized that. And I was like, man, I was praying about this wrong the entire time. I was praying so selfishly, and I was saying, God, give me the desires of my heart no matter what, over everything else. Give me my will over yours. And though it's not a bad thing that I was praying for, I'm praying to get into a school. Though it was not exactly bad what I was praying for, I wasn't praying for God's will. I was praying for my own. And this may be speaking to someone. Sometimes we pray, and we pray so passionately and fervently over things that we want, but we forget to ask God, what is His will for our lives? We forget to even include God in whatever we've been praying for. We just pray for whatever we want, and we take verses from the Bible and we say, well, God, if you're going to bless me and if I'm obedient to you, you're going to bless me the way that I want to be blessed. And that's not necessarily how it goes. Again, I'm going to go back to the verse, delight yourself also in the Lord. Be joyful in the Lord. Be content in the Lord. Obey the Lord. Obey His commandments. And then what will happen? His desires will eventually line up with what you want. His desires will be your desires. His will be your will. And then He will give you the desires of your heart, which will eventually be His. Hopefully that made sense, and hopefully I'm speaking to somebody about this. Hopefully this is touching your heart, and maybe you can change your mindset a little bit. If you're just praying over your will and only your will, I ask that the same way that God changed my mind about it, that He would also touch your heart and change your mind about it too, because we should always be praying for God's will in our lives. We should always pray for God's will in our lives. And as I'm saying this, God is kind of bringing to mind some verses. So if we look into Matthew 6, it's talking about the Lord's Prayer. And Jesus taught us to pray like this. He says, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as it is in heaven." What does that mean? It's basically just asking for God's will to always be done in our lives. It says, "Your will be done in earth as it is in heaven." And I also think about Proverbs 19, verse 21. It says, "There are many devices in a man's heart, nevertheless, the counsel of the Lord that shall stand." In an easier, simplified way, it's basically saying there's many plans in our heart, but it's the Lord's plan that will always prevail. And I can testify to that, honestly. I can wholeheartedly testify to that fact that sometimes I wanted to make a certain plan and I tried so hard and I put so much effort into it, but the Lord, his plan prevailed. Just as the word says, his plan always prevailed when I tried to make a plan my way and didn't even consider God in it. He kind of like would change things around and wouldn't make it go the way that I planned. He made it go the way that he planned it to go. And it's just, it's beautiful. And so as God has been changing my heart and renewing my heart over this verse, I also think about just how tiny we are in comparison to God. Tiny in terms of like size, tiny in terms of intelligence, knowledge, wisdom, our perspective on things. And I'm just thinking, I only see what's in front of me at any given time, you know? I may think I know someone's thoughts. I may think I know their intentions. I may think I know what can happen in the future, but I don't. I really don't know much in comparison to God. God who knows everyone's heart, who knows everyone's thoughts and intentions. God who knows the past, the present, and the future. You know, we try to make our plans because we think that that's what's best for us. But when we put God first, he gives us his plan, which is ultimately the best plan that we can ever have and that we can ever ask for. And so I'm just going to read the psalm one more time so that you guys can really think about it and meditate on it. Hopefully I change someone's mind about it. But it says, "Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart." Alright, so thank you so much for watching. And if you guys want to support me and my ministry, I have 3 forms down below. I have my Cashapp, my Venmo, and my Patreon. So I'm still very new to Patreon, so if you have any ideas or any ways that I can improve it, please let me know. I hope you all have a very blessed week, and thank you for watching.